welcome to this marathon. I'm about to start a little series, probably about 10 chapters. And like so many things, it starts with saying hello world because it sounds much better than goodbye world. And one thing I wanted to do though is point out that this is one of the tools that you rarely will use in Dog Waffle, but you may occasionally also. And right here is where it becomes interesting, isn't it? This is a tab. I just hit the tab key. So this is obviously not Notepad. This is Notepad++. Go look it up. It's free. It's awesome. It's absolutely a must-have. Notepad++ has a number of great features, which I use in linguistics, computational linguistics, translation software, the type of work I do during the week. And one thing that you'll see is that you can convert a encoded file, like ANSI encoded, converted to UTF-8, which is, of course, a lifesaver when it comes to Asian languages or even Chinese, Russian and French and German. A number of these fonts or characters have to be encoded in something like UTF-8, or at least something non-ANSI. What I'm also really focusing on here is just looking at one feature under the view menu. There's a thing called show symbol, and you can show all characters, or at least the tab, the white space and tab. The beauty about that is that when you hit a tab, it now shows it as an arrow. All right, so if you do something like hello and then hit the space bar, not much there. Well, there's a tiny little dot there too. But most importantly, hit the tab and you see world in a totally different view. So what's nice about that is that you do have a tool here that can go much further. And for instance, if you look at code, it also may highlight it. This is a Perl script. So you have some highlighting that's done automatically. You have some searching. If you find something, if you search for something, you can replace it in files across multiple open documents. Most importantly, you can search with regular expressions. And that's just another universe. I mean, this is not just a little bit better than Notepad. This is just totally different. It shouldn't even be called Notepad++. It should just be plus plus. Know what I'm saying? It should not have Notepad because that brings it back down. It's really that great. So anyway, so that's one of the tools. And I think the reason I'm going to use it is really just to show what this tutorial is about. What we will do is, let's create a new here. There you go. All right, so we want to talk about Notepad++. That was sort of the precursor, just to talk about what we really want to talk about. And what I want to talk about is a couple of things. Sometimes we work with cameras, like video cameras or smartphones, and we record a short video clip, and it's not in AVI or it's not in an image sequence format. It's in QuickTime or an MP4 or something like that, a movie file. And unfortunately, you're using a software that doesn't read that format, so you need a converter. And there's a number of different converters out there, and I get often asked, well, how do I convert blah, blah, blah to blah, blah, blah? How do I convert a QuickTime file to image sequence, for instance? There are a couple of ways that I do this. Sometimes I get entranced or I get addicted to one way, and then I forget and I go into a different direction and I say there has to be another way. Perhaps it works better with your workflow. So what I'm going to do is just talk about QuickTime Pro a little bit because I love it for that. I love loading an MP4 or a movie file and then extracting a portion of it, even cropping, selecting a subset of the clip if it's 20 seconds long, but I only care about 3 seconds in it. Crop it before you convert that. Also resize it before you convert it. All sorts of things you can do with that. That's $29 well spent. It's not the fastest, it's not the absolute best at everything, but if you're in Windows and you work occasionally with QuickTime formats, that's a great way to at least see the light at the end of the tunnel when that challenge is eliminated. So I'm going to use that. Once I have the image sequence, of course, I'm going to take it into PD Howler and do stuff to it. But one thing that I'm also going to do, and kind of in parallel, is verve. I have the nerve to show you verve. In fact, I'm going to coin a new expression. I'm going to go and make this a verb, to verve or not to verve. In fact, this will really be something like, do you have the nerve to Verve. With to Verve with Howler. Something like that. And I'm not going to try to translate that, although it would be a really interesting exercise to see how stranslate takes that. But what we want to do is use the computational fluid dynamics simulation that Verve gives you, Verve Painter, to modify, displace, and animate an existing animation or an existing still image of something like a cloud pattern, where we expect to see a little bit of turbulence, and we just add some in a rather unique, different way. And then, of course, it will all turn into elevation maps for terrain. Puppy Ray, I can't help it. We just have to do that. So there'll be some ray tracing with Puppy Ray, and enough said. So this looks like 6 or so chapters, one of them being one where I'm scratching my head wondering what next, but okay, 5. And perhaps it will really take a little bit longer because there are several steps in some of them. All right, so Notepad++ is done. Let's move on to QuickTime Pro.